All right. We are live in the YouTube channel, but give me a couple seconds. I need to also make sure I am live in the Facebook group. And for whatever reason, it is not connecting. So let me just go ahead and fix that. We'll go live in Facebook as well. Let's see if it works now. Let's check it out. And we're there. Let's see. Let me get connected. We will get started at 2 o'clock on the dot, just in 1 minute. All right. We are live. What's up, everybody? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy every other holiday that exists during this time. I'm a Christmas guy myself. So last week, we went over the objection handling for smoke screens. Now, this is going to be a two-step class. Number one is going to be the objection handling for smoke screens, because you can't really get to the real objections if you don't know how to overcome. Like, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my partner. I need to talk to my Uncle Bob. I need to talk to my realtor, whatever, right? You need to be able to get those to figure out the real concerns. And so we've gone over that last week. The week before, we went over presenting the offer. We went over solution awareness, problem awareness. So if you're new to this channel, or this is your first time watching the lives, every week we go live. We talk about a different part of the NEPQ process to help you get better at sales. So this is probably going to be one of the most advanced classes that I've done on here. So because it's objection handling, there's just a lot that you're going to need to know to be able to objection handle it. But what I've done is I've made it very, very simple for you guys. So you can just follow this process. A lot of times, like when I was learning the objection handling process, I would just put it all out on a Miro board and I would go, okay, I just need to follow these steps. And I would watch the steps until I got to where I could just memorize them, right? So I would just need to understand the steps first. Once you understand the steps, now you can freely move throughout your process, right? Because there's no script for objection handling. There's too many different objections. There's too many different variables. I can't just give you a script and say, hey, this is the script you read when somebody says this. People sell that. It doesn't fucking work. We all know that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to go into the objection handling framework. All right. Let's see. Here we go. So let me see if I can just move this over a little bit. So what's really important to know about objection handling is there's a couple of things you need in order to be able to objection handle. If you don't have these things, your objection handling will fall completely flat. And so this is what we've covered in the last couple of weeks or months, depending on how long you've been following along. The first thing you need is a problem. You need a problem that the seller is dealing with, right? That could mean that their house is in terrible shape. That could mean that they miss their kids. Their kids are in a different state. Their tenants are being shitty, right? They have a vacant property and it's costing them money, but not making them anything, right? So that's the problem. We need to have the problem for every seller. Now, after we get the problem, this is like the meat and potatoes. You need the results of that problem. So it's not enough to just say, yeah, I really miss my kids, right? Or I really my kids are in another state and that's why I want to move, right? A lot of people, they just tick off the box of motivation. Oh, I got the motivation, wants to be closer to their kids, right? That doesn't do anything for you. What you need to understand is the results of that problem. So not being near your kids every year, what is that doing to you? Living in this house where your oven doesn't work, what is that actually doing to you? How is that actually impacting you, though? We need to get the impact of that problem, right? The results of that problem. So these tenants aren't paying. Who's paying that? Are you paying it? What is that doing to your finances, right? So we need to have the impact of that problem, the problem that they're trying to solve. Next, we need to get the desired state. So we need to get the desired state that they are trying to achieve, right? So maybe they are trying to get closer to their kids, right? They are trying to move into a nicer house. They're trying to move into a safer neighborhood. They're trying to get caught up on their bills because they're in pre-foreclosure, right? We need the desired state. And then once we have that, we need the impact of that state. Let me finish this sentence that I did not finish. So we need the impact of that state. So once you're able to be closer to your kids, how much different is your life going to be? What are you looking forward to the most about that? Right? Once you're able to move into that nicer house, what are you looking forward to the most about being in that nicer house? How's that going to feel? How's it going to feel when you're not having to worry about, cooking in the microwave because your oven doesn't work? You're able to be in that nicer house in the safer neighborhood. Like, what's that going to feel like? We need to get them picturing that moment in time. Why do we need to do this? This is how we are going to help them solve their problems and how we're going to help them overcome their own objections. Because objection handling is not us overcoming their objections. It's helping them overcome their own objections. When you flip that in your mind, everything will change for you. Instead of us trying to overcome their objections, we're helping them overcome their own objections. So let's jump right into it. Once we have that, we're going to go present the offer. And there are, see if I can back this out a little bit. And I'll just scroll down. There we go. So after we've gotten through the think about it and partner objections, which are the smoke screens, right? I need to think about it. I need to pray about it. I need to meditate on it. I need to talk to my uncle, my wife, my sister, my cousin, right? I need to go talk to somebody. Once we get through those and we ask them, so we go through the framework, right? Let's book a time. We disarm them. Okay, so when you're thinking about it between now and tomorrow, what questions do you feel like you might be running through your head, just so I'm better prepared for that next call? They're going to give you one of these three. Now, they can disguise it a million different ways, but it's one of these three objections. It's either money, it's logistics, or it's fear. And some of them can tie back into themselves, right? So first, we're going to cover money. We go over here and just cover the money objection, right? So there's three different types of money objections, right? Because like when you say, it's not enough money. Okay, well, how do you mean it's not enough money? And that's the first question we need to ask. So let's say we got through the think about it. What questions do you feel like you need to be running through your head? Well, it's honestly just the price. Okay, when you say it, the price, how do you mean? So we need to clarify. So the first thing we're going to do, and you're going to notice that there's a commonality here. We need to clarify the objection. So this could mean three different things. It can mean, well, my neighbor's house sold for this. I had another offer for this, right? What else could be comparison? Like, I feel like the house value is this because of this, right? I did the yard, so the house is worth $100,000 more, right? That's a comparison. So they're comparing the value of their house to the other houses in the neighborhood. Fair enough, right? The next one is wants. Well, I want more money. I want more money so I can go, do X, Y, and Z, right? So we're going to handle this objection a little bit different than the comparison objection. Maybe it's not about the comps in the area. Maybe they just want more money for whatever reason to go accomplish whatever thing. And then the last one is logistics. So the money that you're able to get them in their pocket actually doesn't solve the problem. This is unique to our industry. If you sell high ticket, if you sell, SaaS, if you sell anything else, the money, it's just an investment that they need to make, which typically they will either make back in time or money, right? Like if you're selling sales services, like you're going to make your money back with more money. If you're selling some sort of like SaaS automation that will just buy you back time, it's like, okay, well, that's a time. Like you're going to get that back. Where our industry is a little bit different here, right? Because they might need a certain amount of money to go accomplish whatever they're trying to accomplish. And so we're going to handle that a little different as well, right? So I'm going to cover these two. So let's say, hey, when you say it's not enough money, how do you mean? They say, well, my neighbor's house sold for XYZ. Okay. The first thing we're going to ask, we're going to disarm them a little bit more. We're going to say something along the lines of, I'm just going to put disarm here. I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. Yeah, I could certainly understand why you might feel like that. I could certainly see that's a valid point, right? You could disarm them a little bit more. Now you don't want to just go, well, what do you mean? Like, but your house is a shithole. Have you seen your other house? It needs a lot. The neighbor's house was turnkey and your house needs a lot of repairs. Now you're combating them. Remember, the purpose of objection handling is to help them overcome their own objections. If you're getting combative with them, then you're never going to overcome their objections, right? So we need to disarm them. Certainly not a problem. I definitely understand that you feel like your house could be worth more because of the neighbors, right? Now what we need to do is we need to go into a commitment. And so what a lot of you guys feel like are price objections, are time frame objections, or fear objections are really just a lack of commitment. They're not committed to changing their situation enough. When you get 100% commitment, if that were possible, if you're able to get 100% commitment, like let's say, for example, let's use an extreme. I'm not going to do like the Andy Elliott. If I kidnapped your kids, like, would you sell 50 cars? I think that's the stupidest thing ever. But let's use a different example, right? So let's say that if they sold this house, right, they would be right when they sell it, like they save somebody's life, right? Somebody that they care about, like they do save their life, right? So if they did that, would any of these other concerns come up? All they need to do is sell the house. If they sell the house, they save someone's life. If they did that, would they be like, oh, well, I'm not sure about this, the time frame, all this? It's like, no, somebody's life's on the line. If you sell this house, you will save their life. No, there would be no objections because they would be so committed to changing their situation, right? So a lot of times when we get these objections, it's really just a lack of commitment. So when we're getting these, we need to go back to that commitment phase. And that's why at the beginning of this, I told you we need to get the problem, the results of the problem, desired state, and the impact of that desired state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something like this. So price aside, we can work on that. And then we're going to ask, are you 100% committed to, and then we're going to repeat back the problem they want to solve. I'm going to make that a little bigger so you guys can see it. Let's do this. Okay. So price aside, are you 100% committed that you want to do this, right? And then we're going to do one more thing. And other than the price, do you feel like everything we've covered will allow you to do that? Okay. Let me even these out a little bit. It's not going to work. Whatever. There we go. Perfect. So price aside, like we can talk about the price. I mean, are you 100% committed to moving closer to your kids? Right? Are you 100% committed to selling this house before the auction date so you can start that next chapter of your life? Are you 100% committed to get out of this property so that way you can be able to cook home-cooked meals for your family, be able to invite your family over for the holidays? Are you 100% committed to doing that? Right? Now, if they say no, that's going to go back to a fear objection, right? Or just a lack of commitment that we didn't get in the commitment phase. But usually, if you've done their process right, they're going to say, yeah, I know that I want to do that. I know that I want to solve the problem. Okay, well, other than the price, do you feel like everything we covered will allow you to do that? And then they're going to say, well, yeah. Or you'll get a logistics concern, which we'll go into. But most of the time, let's say other than the price, like everything you said, I would 100% move forward with it. Right? Okay. So once we've got that, we're going to ask a simple question. Why do you feel like that? Why do you feel like that though? Right? Do you feel like everything we've covered will help you move closer to your kids? Well, yeah. Well, why? Well, you guys did say that you're not going to have a bunch of people coming in and out of my house. I knew I didn't want that. And you're going to be able to do this in 3 weeks. I can't lose out on that other house. Right? I can't lose out on the other house I have. It's locked in. I need to move there. Right? And so then we're going to do something called a reframe. So before we reframe, we need to ask them for permission. Are you open to a suggestion there? Are you open to a suggestion there? What we're asking them, are you going to allow us to give you a different point of view? Are you going to allow us to give you a different point of view to maybe see this from a different light? Now, it doesn't have to say, are you open to a suggestion there? You could just say something separate like, hey, are you maybe open to looking at this from a different perspective just to see if we might be able to help you out? Are you open to looking at this from a different light just to see if we could possibly help you out? Yeah, I'm open to it. Now, here's the reframe. Have you considered, let me make this bigger. That you holding on to what your neighbor sold for might be the one thing that's preventing you from being able to repeat back desired state. Now, this is important. We're going to repeat back the desired state. Why would we repeat back the desired state versus just repeating back the problem that they're trying to solve? Well, the desired state is what they're actually after, right? So, for example, if I say I want to lose weight, okay, well, why do you want to lose? Like, what's making you feel like you want to lose weight? Well, every time I take my shirt off at the pool, all of the girls that are looking at me, I just feel like they're thinking that I'm out of shape. Okay. And so, like, let's say you were able to take your shirt off and you have a six pack. How is that going to feel? It's going to feel incredible. Like, what's it actually going to feel like, though? Well, I'm going to feel like the man. I'm going to have so much more confidence. Like, I'm going to be comfortable doing it. I'll go to the pool a lot more. So have you considered that you holding on to this is the one thing that's preventing you from being able to actually feel the confidence that you want, right? That's an example for weight loss. Now let's bring it back to real estate. Have you considered that you holding on to what your neighbor sold for might be the one thing that's actually preventing you from being able to enjoy the time with your kids that you're wanting, right? From being able to get those home cooked meals and start feeling that level of peace in your life, to being able to start that new chapter so you can finally go do X, right? We're going to repeat back the desired state. Once we do that, they're obviously at this point and be like, well, you're right. That is going to be, yeah, that's definitely, I mean, the reason that I'm not getting this is because you could give it to me right now. Like, we could give them that thing that they want right now. All they need to do is come to terms with the price and we can get it for them, right? So from there, we're going to put it back on them. Again, we're helping them overcome their own objections. So what do you feel like you need to do to put yourself in the best possible position to repeat the outcome? Desired state. There we go. So let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So what do you feel like you need to do to put yourself in the best possible position to be able to actually go spend more time with your grandkids? Like, what do you feel like you need to do? Right? We're putting it back on them and we're helping them overcome their own objections. Right? So that's how we're going to overcome the money objection. Let's go up a little bit. When it's a comparison. Right? Now we're going to go into wants. Right? So wants is a little bit different than a comparison objection. Once is going to be, I could do this right now. Maybe I'm not sure because I want more money. Has nothing to do with the logistics. I could go buy my next house. I could, pay off the mortgage and get out of foreclosure. They're not talking, it's not about the comparisons. They just want more money for whatever reason. Right. So from here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clarify and probe. So when you say you want more money, like, how do you mean? I mean, that some people that means like up $10. Some people that means $20,000. And I'm going to tell you guys a story here of why this is so important. So I was on the phone with a seller and she was in foreclosure. She inherited the house, but she couldn't make the payments. And so she was out in, this was a long time ago. I can't remember the exact city. I think she was in Cincinnati. And so the house was in Southern California. And so, I went through, I offered her $300,000 for the house, which basically just paid off her mortgage. It's like the most we could offer for the house. And she's like, you know what? I don't feel like that's enough money. I'm like, okay, when you say it's not enough money, how do you mean? Because some people that means $50,000. Some people means $100, right? How do you mean by it's not enough money? She said, well, I just don't think it's going to be enough for me to be able to move all of my stuff to the next property, and I don't have any money. Okay, cool. We've got that. So let me ask you this. Let's say that we were able to get all of your stuff there. Like we were able to do that. Are you 100% sure that you want to sell this house so that way it doesn't go into foreclosure? Well, yeah. And if we're able to get your stuff over to the next house, have we covered everything that you need to be able to do that? Yes. Right. She said, yes. Like if you could move that all of my stuff over, like I'd be 100% ready to go. And so that's what we did. It's like, okay, well, let me do this. Let me see if I can get all of your stuff moved over. It was like $800. It was not a lot. She thought it was going to be like $5,000 to move all the stuff. She had some plants that were a little bit more expensive to move, but it still wasn't that much money, right? It was like $800 to get all of her stuff moved. And so that was the power of just clarifying. Now, once I do that, I want to disarm them, right? So yeah, certainly understand that you would want more money, like not a problem at all. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ask this same objection handler. Let me just copy it. It's going to be very similar. There we go. That's it. Price aside, we can work on that. Are you 100% committed to actually being able to do this? Right? Then we're going to ask this same thing as well. The ending is going to be a little bit different. Don't worry. I'm not just going to repeat the same objection. So other than the price, do you feel like everything we've covered will allow you to do that? They're like, yes. Okay. From here, why do you feel like that? Why do you feel like that? Now, another way to word this question is, what about what we went over? Do you feel like benefited you? I'll spell that correctly in a second. Benefited you the most? What about what we went over? Do you feel like benefited you the most? Right? Well, it's the fact that you did this. It's the fact that you said you could do this, right? Whatever they tell you there is the thing that is most important to them. And that's what we need to understand. What is most important to them? Now, from here, we do something called asking a weighted question, right? So what that looks like is, so what feels riskier at this point? Actually, I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to back up because depending on, I'm going to go through this like you didn't get the right level of commitment. So you guys saw the commitment up there. So let's say that we, for whatever reason, missed that commitment phase, right? So what I'm going to ask is the money we went over, would that be enough for you to and then we're going to repeat back the result, or the desired state, I should say. So the $200,000 that you'll walk away with in your pocket, would that be enough for you to put a down payment on this next house? Would that be enough for you to be able to do this? Right? Let me make this a little bigger. There we go. They're going to say yes or no. Now, if they say no, we're going to go into logistics here, right? But this is going to be a once objection. So typically it's going to be a yes. Like, yeah, it will, but I want more money, right? It will, but I want more money, right? Cool. So what feels riskier at this point? This is how we open this. Is it taking the money that you need to be able to solve this problem, or is it taking a chance for the next 3, 6, or even 12 months to hope that a better offer comes along, knowing that that will never be guaranteed? And this is the hardest word to spell in the English dictionary. There we go. All right. So what does that look like? Let me make this a little bigger. There we go. So once we go through this framework, we ask them, price aside, are you 100% committed to being able to solve the problem? Yes. Okay. Well, other than the price, do you feel like we've covered everything for you to allow you to do that? Yeah, like I definitely do. Well, what about what we went over do you feel like benefited you the most? It's the fact that you can do this in 3 weeks. Okay. That's good to know. Now, the $200,000 that we just spoke about that you would walk away with, would that allow you to be able to buy the next house so you could spend more time with your kids? Would that allow you to be able to buy the next house so you don't have to worry about cooking meals in your microwave anymore? Right? Would that allow you to buy to pay off the mortgage and get enough to rent your next property so that way you can start this next chapter of your life? Well, yeah, it would be, but I need more money. Well, I guess what feels riskier at this point? Is it taking the money that you need to be able to actually solve this problem? So is it taking the money you need to actually be able to go spend the time with your kids? Or is it taking a chance for another 3, 6, 12 months to hope that a better offer comes along, knowing that you and I both know that that will never be guaranteed, right? So I think the saying is a bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush, right? You've got the way to solve this problem, and we can help you do that right now. So what feels riskier? Is it solving this problem right now, or is it waiting to possibly hit those other 2 birds in the bush, right? So that's what we need to ask them. Now, once we get that, they're going to say, well, honestly, at this point, it feels riskier to take a chance. Like, I know I need to solve this. Okay, well, why do you feel like that? Well, because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, once we have that, we are going to go right back into this. So what do you feel like? What do you feel like you need to do to put yourself in the best possible position to be able to go spend time with your grandkids, right? Whatever it is that they are trying to solve, right? So that is the price objection. Now, next is going to be logistics, and I'm going to go into money first because we were just talking about money, right? So money, we're going to follow all of these. So I'm just going to put here, instead of writing it all out, follow the same money process, except for once we get to this part. So once we get to this part right here, that the money that we went over, would that be enough for you to be able to, go back to the desired state? So they say, no, it's not. I need $200,000 to put on the next house, and you're offering me $150,000. I wouldn't be able to do that, right? So from here, we're going to ask permission again. Are you open to walking through some ways that we can help you still get to repeat back desired state? Okay. So what does that look like? Let's do here. So I'll give you an example of somebody that we actually ended up closing on. We had like $38,000 on this deal. She said that wouldn't give me enough money to actually get into this next mobile home that I want. Okay. Well, are you open to walking through some ways that we can help you still get to the mobile home so that way you can start cooking some meals for your family? Well, yeah, I'm open to it. Well, let's talk about it for a second. How much are the houses that you're buying? They are $180,000. And how much do you need to put down? I need to put down 20%. Let me ask you this. Where did that number come from? Well, that came from the lender. They said that I need to put down 20%. Are you 100% sure you couldn't qualify for 10? Like, no, I'm not 100% sure. Why don't we do this? Let's talk to the lender. Let's see if we can get you qualified for 10. I have my own lender that you can talk to. We can connect you with them. We can see if we can get you approved for 10%. If you can, and let's say we are able to help you there, are you 100% committed to being able to move closer to your family or move into that nicer house? Yeah, 100%. Okay, well, we might be getting ahead of ourselves. Let's solve this. And then once we solve this problem, we can walk through some other ways that we'll be able to help you, right? That's just one example. There are hundreds that I can give you here, right? But all you need to ask is, are you open to walking through some ways that we can help you accomplish X, Y, and Z, right? So they say, yes, I'm open for some ways. Now you just talk it out, right? You need to better understand where the money is, where the concern is coming from, right? If it's a money concern. So is it that they need, $5,000 today to, pay off some shark money lender? Okay. Well, can we talk about ways that we can help them get that, right? That is a logistics objection. Now let's talk about a time objection. Yeah, everything works great. This will fall under logistics, but the timing isn't quite right. It's going to be a very similar process. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clarify. When you say the timing's not right, how do you mean exactly? That can mean a million different things. That can mean like my dog needs to go to the vet right now, so I need to go bring him to the vet and I can't sign this contract. Or that could mean, well, the property's in probate. I need to go consult all the sisters, or I need to wait till X, Y, and Z is done, right? It can mean a variety of different things. So we need to clarify on that first. Once we do that, we need to disarm. Okay, certainly not a problem that you need to go bring your dog to the vet. If it were my dog, I would probably do the same thing, right? So what we're going to do is now isolate the objection. Timing aside, are you 100% sure you want to repeat back the result? I'm just going to start putting desired state here. Okay. You guys know what repeat back desired state means. I'm just going to put desired state. So timing aside, are you 100% sure that you want to sell this house and not lose it to the foreclosure? Yeah, I'm 100% sure. Okay. And do you feel like everything we've covered will allow you to do that? Right? Do you feel like everything we've covered will allow you to do that? And so they're going to say, well, yes, we're going to do the same thing. What about what we covered? What about what we covered? Do you feel like benefited you the most? Well, you told me that you don't have to have a million people in. You can just do one inspection and I can have a mask on, with my health. That's really important to me. Okay. So now you have that. Now what we're going to ask, now this depends a lot on what the timing means, right? So if the timing is like, I need to go, bring my dog to the vet, like that's going to be a different objection than I need to wait like 3 months because I need to go solve X, Y, and Z problem, right? If it's I need to wait 3 months to solve X, Y, and Z problem, what we're going to ask is this simple question. Do you want to have to wait to desired state? Do you want to have to wait to spend that time with your grandkids if you didn't have to? Do you want to have to wait to sell your house if you didn't have to? Right? They probably feel like they have to wait for whatever reason. Right? So they're going to say, well, no. I mean, if I didn't have to, I would really want to do it. Okay, well, why? Every time we ask why, they're selling themselves and they're overcoming their own objections. Well, if I could do it before, the holidays, then I'd be able to have my entire family over for dinner. Right? Okay. So what do you feel like you need to do? We're going to change this a little bit. What do you feel like you need to do to put yourself in the best possible position? So that way, here's where it changes. When you go to bed tonight, you've done everything in your power to be able to, and then we're going to go back to desired state. Now, why would I add that little part in there? When you go to bed tonight? Because the problem with time objections is it's just a lack of urgency, right? So we need to create that urgency. Do you want to have to wait if you didn't have to? Do you want to wait if you didn't have to, right? Well, no, I don't want to wait. If I didn't have to, I would do this right now. Okay, well, why would you do it right now? Like, why not just push it down the road like most other people do? Now, this is a little bit more advanced where you pull back here. Yeah, like why not just push it down the road? Like a lot of people that just hanging out with their kids is really not that important to them. Like, why not do that? Well, my kids are growing up so fast. Like I already missed all of their birthdays. Like I really need to be there. Okay, well, that's a different story. You don't need to be there. Well, no, I really want to. All right, well, that's the case. Like, what do you feel like you need to do to put yourself in the best possible position so that way when you go to bed tonight, you've done everything in your power to be able to get closer to your kids, right? Boom. You're right. I need to move forward. That is how you overcome the time frame objection, right? Now you've got the third logistics objection, which is a valid concern, right? This is a legitimate, valid concern. And so what that could look like is, well, this all sounds great, but I need to count the money that I have in my bank account and I need to be able to make sure that I've got the right amount of closing costs to be able to buy the house, right? It's kind of a money objection, but it's like, okay, well, that's valid. Or let me think of some other ones that we've actually had that are examples. I mean, this is another one that we've had recently and these are actually the easiest to overcome because they're pretty straightforward, right? Now we do need to isolate them first, but they're pretty straightforward. We had one guy's like, I have so much stuff, I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, right? We have had another guy that said, I've just got tenants in the property and I don't want to just kick them out in the streets. Like I really care about the tenants and I don't want to just disturb them, right? So that is some examples of like some valid concerns. They want to move forward. Price is good. Time frame's good. They're not scared to move forward. They just have a legitimate concern. These are the easiest to overcome in our industry. And the reason that's so easy for us to overcome is because we have a lot of flexibility on what we can do, right? So other products, Alex Ramosi talks about this a lot, is they want their results and they want it their way, right? So he uses the example of like, I want to get a 6-pack, but I want to be able to eat chocolate chip cookies. It's like, well, if you mess with the product of what we deliver, when we tell you not to eat chocolate chip cookies, like you're not going to get the same result. However, in our industry, we have a really big advantage. which is we can get them the result that they're after and the way that they want it. So let's use the valid concerns framework here. So what do you think we're going to do first? We're going to clarify. Okay, so let's use the example of I've got way too much stuff. I don't know what to do with it. Okay, when you say you don't know what to do with it, like how do you mean? Well, I don't know if I'm going to throw some of it away. I don't know if I'm going to keep some of it. I have no idea. Okay, now we're going to disarm them. And what that's going to look like here, hey, certainly not a problem. Like we've actually had this concern come up a lot. And so you're 100% you're not alone. Are you open to exploring some ways that we've been able to help other people like you with this exact same process? Right? So that's the next part. So we're going to make another, and you can even tell a story. Hey, we had one story. So are you open? Or I would even ask this. So I would say, are you opposed to having a conversation about how we've helped other sellers in this exact same scenario? We'll fix the spelling there. Maybe I spelled it so wrong. I think there's an A there. Okay, looks right. Are you opposed to having a conversation about how we've helped other sellers in this exact same scenario? From here, what you're going to do is you're going to paint that picture for them. So you're going to tell the story. And then you're going to ask this. If we were able to do all of that for you, what would be your biggest concern? Right? If we were able to do all of that for you, if we were able to, so let me back up. Are you opposed to having a brief conversation about how we've helped other sellers in this exact same scenario? Yes. Okay, so we had a seller that had a bunch of stuff. Like their house was like filled up to the ceiling with stuff. They were a bit of a hoarder, in their words, not mine, but they had stuff, right? And they didn't know what to do with their stuff. They didn't know if they're going to throw some away. And just like you, they're trying to decide they're going to keep some of it. So the way that we were actually able to help when we got a little creative here is we hired a moving company, because the thought of like moving a bunch of stuff can be really stressful. So we actually hired the moving company, and then we got them a storage unit. And the only thing we asked them to do is just point. I don't know what I want to do with this, so this is going to go to the storage unit. I definitely want to throw that away, and I definitely want to keep that. So there's basically 3 boxes. I don't know, storage unit. I want to keep it, moving truck. I want to throw it away, dump, right? And so they will go into one of those 3 boxes. Now, if we were able to do that for you, where we hired a mover, all you have to do is point your fingers. I know you're in a wheelchair. You can just sit there and point. If we're able to do all of that for you, still close in 3 weeks and get you the $150,000 that you need to be able to go move to this new apartment, what would be your biggest concern at that point? Nothing. Okay. So what would you want the next steps to be? And they're going to say, where do I sign? How do we get started? That's it, right? That's all you have to do. Now, to really understand the valid concern, what you do need to do as well, let me center some of these while I'm telling you guys this story, is you need to say, okay, well, that objection aside, like your things aside, do you feel like we've covered everything for you to be able to do X, Y, and Z? Well, why do you feel like we would, though? And are you 100% sure you want to do that, right? All of these objections come down to clarifying and commitment. So you can see on the left here, there's a reason that I put clarify and commitment for each one. Every single one, we need to clarify the objection, and we need to make sure that they're committed to changing. If they're not committed to changing, we need to get that commitment before we can move anything. It's like trying to sell something that somebody doesn't want, right? It's like trying to sell weight loss to somebody that has a 6-pack. It's like, dude, got a 6-pack. I don't need weight loss, right? Never going to be able to work. So we need to get that commitment first. Last is going to be the fear objection. Now, there's 4 main fear objections that we get. One is they're scared of themselves making the wrong decision, right? The second one is they don't trust that you can actually help them with this. The third one is kind of similar to this one. It's past experiences. So they have made a bad decision in the past and they're letting it burn them. And then the next one is future change. They're scared of the unknown. They're scared of what happens. And you would be so surprised how much this comes up in our industry. Once you get really good at being able to overcome and actually identify objections, you'd be so surprised how much this one comes up. They know what they want is in front of them, but they're scared to make a change because they've been in the exact same situation so long, right? So the first one is going to be themselves, right? And the way this fear objection typically comes up is, okay, if we were able to do all of this, what's your biggest concern at that point? They're like, well, I just have no idea. Like this is just a lot for me, and I haven't really made good decisions in the past. Right? Now what we're going to ask is the same thing. We're going to get that commitment. Are you 100% sure that you want to? And then repeat back the desired state, right? Well, are you 100% sure that you do want to move closer to your family? Yeah, I'm 100% sure, right? So once we have that, I'm 100% sure that I want to move closer to my family. We ask something that works across all of objections, but especially good here. So between you and me, completely off the record, what's really going on? Okay. Between you and me, completely off the record, what's really going on? Now they're going to say, well, I just have notoriously made bad decisions. That's why I'm in this situation in the first place. And I'm scared that I'm going to make the wrong one. I say, cool. Do you mind me walking through something that I've done with some other sellers that have helped them in this situation as well? Right? So I'm going to ask for permission. They're going to say yes. And then I'm going to tell a story. So this is what's really helpful here. If you need to be super blunt with the seller, but you don't want to disarm them, use a third party. Use a third party to tell a story. So I had a seller, her name was Sally. And she was kind of in a similar situation. Like she bought a house she couldn't afford. She started to get behind on payments. And then she was in a situation where she was going to lose the house. So what we did with her was we did like a worst case and best case scenario, right? So what is the worst case of you actually staying in this house right now? The one that you're in away from your family, right? Well, the worst case is I lose my relationship with my kids. Okay, so that's the worst case. Are you sure there's nothing worse than that? No, that would be like the worst thing that happens. Okay, what's the best case scenario? Well, the best case scenario is I actually really enjoy moving next to them. I get to build that relationship and I get to see them every day, right? Let's do a different example. Let's say it's a foreclosure. What's the worst case scenario of you not doing anything? Well, I lose my house and all of the equity. Okay, fair enough. What's the best case scenario? Well, the best case scenario is I get to start over a new chapter of my life. I rent for a little bit. I get caught up on some bills, and then 7 years, I get to buy another house. Okay, so in both of those scenarios, we're going to do worst case, best case. And then we're going to ask what feels riskier. Not riskier. Is it continuing to push this off like we have been? Or is it doing something now so that way we can get you to desired state? I'm going to go over on time. I told you guys this is going to be a very in-depth training. So we're at 49 minutes in right now. Probably go a little bit over an hour today. So what feels riskier then? Like you've got the worst case scenario, you've got the best case scenario. Which one feels riskier? So I'll give you an example in another industry. It always helps me when I hear other industries as well. Is let's say you are selling something, it costs $2,000, right? And that $2,000 will allow them to go make $10,000, right? Typically, like that's what happens to other students. Okay, what's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is I spend $2,000 and I just lost it. Okay, so you end up being broke. You lose the only $2,000 that you have to your name. That would suck. What's the best case scenario? Well, the best case scenario is I spend the $2,000, I get the $10,000 results per month, like you said. All right, well then what feels riskier? Is it having $2,000 in your bank account? Or is it being able to learn the skills, like maybe spending that money, investing it, so you can learn the skills to be able to get $10,000 a month? Like which one feels riskier to you? Right? So that will be the worst case, best case scenario. And if you really want to hit home, tell a story with somebody else. So I had this seller, they really wanted to move closer to that. Let's use this. They really wanted to sell their house because they were in foreclosure, but they didn't know what was the best decision for them. And so we looked at the pros and cons. Like worst case, you lose all the equity in your house. You lose everything. The sheriff comes over, they knock on your door, and they say, hey, you have to leave. And we don't care where you go, but you can't stay here. That was the reality for Sally. She was going to lose her house and she was going to end up on the streets, right? Now, the best case scenario is she sells the house, right? She sells the house. She gets to go start that new chapter of her life. She gets a new job. She builds her credit. She gets to buy another house. Just said, ask her what feels riskier. What do you think Sally said? Well, yeah, she probably said that it was riskier. Right. So what do you feel like you should do? So what feels riskier to you? So when you tell a story, you can hammer it home, but you're using somebody else as like a scapegoat, right? Using somebody else to attack. So that is the themselves, right? Next is going to be you. And you really fucked up if you got here, right? But we're going to go over it. We're going to help you out, even if you fucked up. So hey, look, this all sounds good, but I don't trust that you can do X, Y, and Z. Okay, fair enough. Now, what we're not going to do here is like, is it something I said? Is it my breath? Is it something like that? So what we're going to do is just clarify. We're going to clarify. Okay, and when you say like you don't feel like we can actually help you with this, how do you mean? Well, I just don't know anything about your company. Like I know there's a bunch of scams out there and I don't know if I can even trust you. And then we're going to disarm them, right? Look, certainly understandable. It's certainly understandable that you would feel like that. Like we just met 2 hours ago and we are moving a little fast. So would it help you if I walked you through what other sellers that have had the same concern, would it help you if I walked you through the same things that I helped them? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to tell a story, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask for permission. You guys will see some commonalities here. And so once I tell the story about Sally, who was concerned, we showed her reviews, we showed her some closing statements, and that validated her concerns. We don't know if that's the same concerns that they will have, right? So what we're going to ask them is, what would you be looking for so that you know you can 100% trust, 10% trust, that wouldn't work, 100% trust that we're going to do what we say and help you desired state, help you get closer to your kids, right? We're using that as the common theme, right? So what would you be looking for so that you know that you can 100% trust that we're going to do what we say we're going to do and ultimately help you get closer to your kids? Well, I'd be looking for reviews, testimonials, closing statements. I'll call the escrow company, better business, whatever, right? All right. So let's say let's say we're able to show you all that. What would be your biggest concern at that point? Now they're going to say nothing. If you showed me all of that, I wouldn't have any concerns. So what would you want the next steps to be? Let's say we're able to show you. So the reason, here's why I do this in this way. I want to tell you guys why I came up with this framework in this way specifically. There we go. If I ask, what would you be looking for, without telling the story first, a lot of times the sellers just say, I don't know. I don't know what I would be looking for. You tell me, right? So I need to first understand, I need to first tell them a story about other things that people look for. Reviews, which if you guys don't have any reviews, like go exchange some reviews with your friends. Just don't do it all at once, right? Like you should have some reviews. You should have some closing statements. You should have something, right? To help show the seller that you're a legitimate company, right? A relationship, even if it's your first deal, build a relationship with an escrow officer, or title officer, or an attorney, right? So they can vouch for you. And then you can use that in the story. Hey, you know, I had another seller who had a very similar concern. Would you be open to me just sharing with you, like maybe what we walked through them? And they were like, yeah, I guess I'm open to that. So she was concerned that like, we didn't have any reviews and anything like that. We're not some like giant company that has a million reviews and testimonials and all of that. So what we did is we just introduced her to the attorney that we work with on a regular basis. And she had a conversation with our attorney, and we didn't tell him to say anything. He just kind of walked her through how we conduct business. And that alone was enough for her to realize that we're going to do what we said. So let's say we were able to do that. Or then I'm going to ask, so what would you be looking for? Yeah, I guess the same thing. Okay, so let's say we're able to connect you with the attorney. And they were to walk you through like kind of our business, exactly who we are, what we do. What would be your biggest concern at that point? I wouldn't have anything. Okay, so what would you want the next steps to be? I would want to get started, right? Boom, right there. So now we've overcome, oh my gosh, we've overcome a lot. Money with comparison, once, logistics, money, logistics, time, logistics, valid concerns, fear in themselves, fear in you, and now we're going to go into fear in past experiences, right? So, past experiences. This is actually straight out of a stolen playbook. I'm going to tell you guys, I stole this. Well, I shouldn't say I stole this from one person, because this is taught by NEPQ, from Jeremy. This is taught from Alex. This is taught from a bunch of other people. So this is a stolen framework. A lot of this other stuff is like a combination. This is 100% stolen. So past experiences, you're going to tell a story. So first you need to understand what they mean. Well, I've had a bad experience with wholesalers in the past. Okay, clarify. Right? And then we're going to disarm. Just like we always do. Then we're going to go in for the commitment. Are you 100% sure you want to change this? Yes, I'm 100% sure. Right? Now what we're going to ask is, have you considered that just because one company is bad, they aren't all bad? Have you considered that? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't considered that, but you're probably right. Right? And so the only thing worse than being burned by a company is allowing that company to burn you twice. I'm like, well, what the heck does that mean? So let me ask you this. Are you married? No. Do you have a girlfriend? Yeah, I have a girlfriend. Okay. Before your current girlfriend, did you date anyone in the past? It's like, yeah, I've dated somebody in the past. Okay, and how'd that go? Well, that one didn't go that well, right? Okay, so what if you would have dated that first person, you got your heart broken, and then you just swore off dating for the rest of your life? Would you have met the partner that you're with right now? No, probably not. You wouldn't, right? So the only thing worse than you letting that company burn you once is you letting that company prevent you from, and then you're going to repeat back the desired state. The only thing worse than you letting that company, the only thing worse than you letting that company burn you once is you also letting that company prevent you from being able to go spend more time with your family, right? So that's where we bring that. And that is a reframe around them letting people burn them more than once, right? So you don't want to get burned more than once. That's how you overcome that. Now, once we've covered that one, we've got the final objection, which is future change. And I saved this one for last because this one is so common, right? I'm going to go deep on this one. So what do you think we're going to do first? We're going to clarify. We're going to disarm. Boom, we're going to disarm them right there. And then we're going to ask a commitment question. Now we're going to ask this a slightly different way because this is the one thing that's getting in their way. It's just the commitment. It's just the change, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, are you 100% sure that you want to change your situation so that you can repeat back the desired state? Now, I'm going to give you guys an example that I used on this lady who was all over the place. I think I went through like every single one of these objections on her. And so I asked her the last one, and she's like, it's a lot, right? It's a lot for me to even think about right now. It's a lot of change. It's like, okay, well, are you 100% sure that you do want to go move into this next house so that way you can start cooking for your family? She's like, yes, I've just been here for so long. Okay. Have you ever heard, this is where we tell a story. And this story is called Burn the Boats. So have you ever heard the story called Burn the Boats? It's like, no, I haven't heard the story Burn the Boats. Okay. So do you mind if I share it with you for a second? I ask permission. They're going to say, yeah, like tell me. So I don't remember if this was the Vikings or who this was, but basically there was a story where this army needed to go take over some land that was in front of them. And the general, when they landed, burned all of the boats as soon as they hit land. Now, why do you feel like he did that? It's like, well, he didn't want them to turn back. It's like, because he knew that what he wanted was in front of him, because they knew that what they wanted was in front of them. It wasn't behind them. It wasn't going backwards, right? And so what do you feel like you need to do to burn your boats? You know, are you 100% sure that what you want is in front of you? Yeah, I'm 100% sure. Why? Well, I know that I need to X, Y, and Z. I know I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I might even pull back. Well, you don't have to do that. A lot of people don't. Like, a lot of people just stay in the current situation. Like, why not do that? Well, if I keep doing that, then I'm going to, continue to do X, Y, and Z. And so it sounds like it's time to make a change. Yes. And are you 100% committed to actually making that change? Yeah. Like, I know I need to. Okay. So what do you feel like you need to do to burn those boats? To put yourself in the best possible position. So that way, when you go to bed tonight, you know there's no looking back. You know that what you want is in front of you, and you know you can go get it. What do you feel like you need to do now? Oh, I need to move forward. You don't have to. You can continue here. You can stay here. No, I really want to. Okay. Are you open to me exploring? So are you open to exploring some ways that we can help you do that? Yeah. And this is where you pull up your contract, you start going over, and you get that signature. That is the future change objection. We are going to use the burn the boats story, right? So we've gone over money with comparison, wants, logistics. We've gone over time frame. We've gone over valid concerns, and we've gone over fear. Fear in themselves, fear in you, fear in past experiences, and fear in future change. So if you cannot handle any objections, if you get another objection, like let me know. I have been doing this for years, had thousands of sales calls, and all of them boil down to this. You clarify, you probe, you disarm, you get the commitment, and then you move into the objection handles. Hopefully this was helpful. If you guys are not following me on the YouTube channel, go hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you go join the YouTube channel as well. We're going to start posting a lot more content just like this every single week. So that's all the time we have for today. You guys go out and crush it. Crush those objections. This is John signing off.